Welcome to Fearless Finances, where I try to take the fear out of your finances. For those of you who have been around here before, you might notice I have a little different background. I am at my daughter's house in Maine, babysitting her puppy, Mr. Louie. Maybe I'll show you him later. He was wandering around here, wishing I'd take him for a walk. But yesterday morning, when I woke up here in this beautiful area of Maine, by the way, I'm in Kennebunkport, I haven't seen any bushes around. I mean, I've seen the green bushes, like vegetation bushes, but not the presidential bushes that have a place or a little campus here in Kennebunkport. I probably should go out and try to find that. But anyway, I digress. Yesterday morning, I woke up and I was sitting there thinking, it doesn't seem like anybody's really worried about what's going on. And the other thought that I had was, I'm getting less worried. Like all this craziness with the Trump administration is getting to be just more normal. And granted, I don't think it's good for absolutely any of us to be at some measure of heightened fear all of the time. However, there's something bad happening. Our government's being torn apart. Our Constitution is being ripped apart in tiny little shreds. And people aren't talking about the real harm that's being done. People have literally been deported without due process, and no one continues to do anything to get them back. Well, I shouldn't say no one. People in our judicial system, and there are protesters out there, but no one in the Trump administration is doing anything to correct this very grievous wrong. And as much as I care about some of the men who went over there, I actually care about all of them. And not all of them are getting the same press attention to come back for the due process that the Supreme Court said they should have. And this is the thing. Yesterday, as I was taking Mr. Louie for a walk, I was listening to Jonathan Capehart's Sunday show on MSNBC. And then my Senator Amy Klobuchar came on talking about the protests that she was just at. Now, I'll just tell you straight up, I've never been a huge fan of Amy. At one point in my life, I needed my senators to stand up for me for what I believed was right. And Amy basically said, well, there's nothing I can do. And believe it or not, Elizabeth Warren out in Massachusetts, somebody I couldn't even vote for, her team got a hold of me and worked with me to help get something going on it. I was highly impressed with Elizabeth Warren, not so much with Amy Klobuchar. I have been trying to give Amy the benefit of the doubt lately, figuring that she will get together with a number of the other senators and try to do something to help us. I know she doesn't necessarily not want to help us. I was highly disappointed how she just traipsed around in Washington, D.C. with Donald Trump the day that he was inaugurated. I have to admit, had I been asked to do that, I might have done my responsibility, my duty. I would have been gracious and kind, but I would have made it perfectly clear that I don't like him, that I think he's corrupt, and that I am on him. That is what I would have done. And that is what I wish that all the people on Capitol Hill would start to do. Make it very clear that we know he is corrupt, that he should not be in our White House, and that I am going to do everything I can, we can, to get you out. This includes everyone that goes with him. Vance, now Rubio, all of them. Bye-bye. But I'd like to share with you the interview that I listened to with Miss Amy Klobuchar. It's not on YouTube. It is on Jonathan Capehart's podcast. And I do have a picture of Amy that I can show you while we listen to it.
Today, Democratic lawmakers and hundreds of protesters gathered on the steps of the U.S. Capitol to challenge Trump's budget cuts. They set a tone of defiance as Congress returns to work tomorrow and Americans brace for Trump's next 100 days. So listen, can we just talk about what Secretary Bessent said, this strategic uncertainty? The reason why I was laughing when we came out of that SOT was because I was like, if a man is holding a flaming gas can in the middle of a raging fire, what's so unstrategic? What's so strategic about that?
Completely. And what I was thinking is the uncertainty is our constituents. It is people at home who are now facing, when you're looking at the numbers, a $4,000 tax per family because of these tariff tax, including $200 in groceries, or the fact that a small business in Minnesota called Busy Baby, Entrepreneur of the Year, she's not invited to the White House like Tim Cook of Apple is to talk about, hey, let's get an exception for my stuff, as good as that may be for Americans, or she's not in the investment banking rooms on Wall Street when that same Treasury Secretary presents to some insiders about what's going to happen.
I don't know about you, but I'm sitting here listening to her go on and on with all this stuff that just sounds like politics as usual. It's not like the Trump and the administration literally passed a law and put forth this tax change. No. These tariffs are illegal. Congress only gave the president the right to do these tariffs if we're in an emergency crisis. Trump claims that he is, and then Republicans passed a law that basically says that one day is 2 years or something absolutely ridiculous to allow Trump to continue on. And at any moment, our senators and the people who are in the House of Representatives could repeal this right and take charge and stop all of this. But she just keeps going on about the $4,000 tax. And I mean, all of that, legit. It's all legit. But let's get to the point of it. Trump is behaving illegally, and the Republicans are allowing him to do it. Let's check back in with Amy.
So then, Senator, there are a lot of people who are looking at you, meaning Democrats. What y'all going to do? What are you going to do?
Let's look at what is happening right now. And I would say when you look at what's the rallies and you look at people turning up, people are now realizing this isn't anymore just some joke or something that he said he was going to do when he was campaigning. What's happening? One, we're fighting it in the courts.
What? Like, she's relying on the people and the pulse of the people to decide what's actually right. This is the thing. I'm getting kind of tired of it. We're placating to the lowest common denominator in our nation. People who are not informed, people who are not well educated, and we're letting them decide the ways and the means that we're going to get things done in our nation. This is no way to be. What people like her should be doing, who have a microphone and have a place at the table, they should be educating us on what's possible and what is wrong. Not waiting for us to come to the table so that she can make sure she's reelected. Let's step back in because Jonathan had a few other really good questions.
Over 100 court cases now where judges, both Democratic and Republican appointees, including Trump appointees, have stepped in. 3 equal.
That's because they're doing illegal things. Whew.
Branches of government. Second, in Congress, we've held them accountable with votes to show they are willing to, they don't care. They want to give tax cuts to billionaires and multi-billionaires at $50 million a person. And every time we say, really, could we stop there? They say, no, we want to give more tax cuts.
This is the thing. What I don't understand is when they all show up for committee, why is it that they're not just sitting there saying, we need to get rid of him. He is hurting America. Bring up everything illegal that he's doing. He got rid of the CFPB. He got rid of the Department of Education. We are not okay with this. People are dying in Africa because we don't have US aid and we approved this. Why are they going about business as usual? Either don't show up for the committees and stand outside with the press going on saying the Republicans are acting illegally. They have circumvented their rights, say this stuff over and over again. I simply do not understand it. Let's go back to Amy.
We also just need 4 Republicans to stand up in the House of Representatives, 4 to stand up in the Senate, and then
why aren't they recruiting them? I'd be doing that all day long.
And we can literally stop them from dismantling Social Security and Medicaid. And finally, we got our constituents at our side. And it isn't just activists. It is the quiet people that maybe never came to one of these things before. They're sitting there in a small town looking at me saying, I didn't vote for this. That's the change. That's what you're seeing in these polls. That's the 100 days. Chaos, corruption, costs up.
And so what we're also seeing in those polls, and I'm again thinking of the Washington Post poll, when they were asked, who's more out of touch, the president, Democrats or Republicans? 69% say that Democrats are out of touch.
Wait till you hear this.
So given what you just said, is that poll wrong?
When you're talking about generic Democrats, generic Republicans, a lot of times people are really unhappy right now with the political parties. Do I think we need to make changes? I do. Am I excited that there are people showing up and younger leaders showing up all over the country?
Again, she's talking about what the people are doing instead of being a leader and figuring out a plan.
Yes. But what I also would like to see is that we look ourselves at focusing on housing, focusing on childcare, doing more to bring healthcare costs down. But right now, it is our job to make the case that Donald Trump is messing up people's lives. And will we have good ideas? Do we have them now? Yes. But my number one goal right now is to make clear that what he's doing is wrong. It's messing with people's lives. And then we will give them the alternative in our candidates in the midterm, and they're going to be great, as well as going into the next presidential election.
Business as usual. Her plan is to make sure people know that Donald Trump is messing up, hurting people. He's behaving illegally and needs to be impeached. And I know you don't want to say those words because there's all these people out there who apparently voted for somebody who was impeached twice, and they don't like to hear it. But again, why are we catering to the lowest common denominator? There are more of us who know and understand. And I also understand that I don't want political unrest. I don't want a civil war. I don't want any violence, none at all. But the words that she is using to describe what is going on and what is wrong in our current government is not sufficient. Most of what the Democrats are doing is not sufficient. There's a seat coming up in Minnesota. Tina Smith is stepping aside. And I thought about running on the Democrats ticket, but now I'm thinking of running independent. I'm seriously thinking about it. I probably won't go anywhere, but I want to force them to have to talk about the seriousness of what has gone on and what has gone wrong. So do me a favor. If you know anything about running for office, if you can give me some advice on this, if you've ever done it or helped someone else do it, please write it down in the comments. There's something else that I want to share with you before we cut off this video. It's a little bit more about the lowest common denominator. Before I show you this particular video clip, it features a woman named Anne Applebaum. She is a noted historian about studying totalitarian regimes. In this, she's on the bulwark with Sarah Longwell, and Sarah Longwell does focus group research. And so they listen to some of the people in these focus groups, and Anne talks about how totalitarian governments and totalitarian people like Trump take over. It's excellent. I'm, of course, going to put it into the doobly-doo for you. But I want to share with you a few excerpts from it that are part of the reason that I woke up sad Like there's this big thing happening and people are not reacting to the big thing. In fact, one of the things that Anne had said at one point is when Mussolini was taking over Italy, people were like just going to the opera. Like this major shift in their world was happening, and people were just going to the opera. I'll also say this too. Anne, in this piece, said that the United States is years down the road in being in this totalitarian government, that this transition started even before Trump was in. And the Republicans have been highly complicit in this. And I'm also going to say so have the Democrats, because we just watched Amy Klobuchar act like there might even be elections in 2 years or 4 years or whatever. Look at how much has changed in 90 days. Look at all the horrible things they have done in 90 or 100 days. If he's actually in for 4 years, we have to go through 12 times that. So let's watch this with Anne Applebaum.
Because what happened in the focus groups was kind of interesting, right? So these are all Biden to Trump voters on the show today. Many of them were focused on whether or not he was a bad guy, and exactly how bad he might be. So let's listen to the first wave of commentary we heard about Abrigo Garcia.
People are saying we shouldn't have sent him there. I feel like we should have. He's a criminal. I understand he's part of a gang, and that's why he wasn't supposed to go there. Whatever. I mean, if you're a criminal, I don't know what to tell you, but I'd rather him not be in America. So I don't understand what the big deal is about it. But at the end of the day, we don't really know what's going on. They tell us what they want us to hear. Is it the truth? Who knows?
You watch like Fox News or you watch CNN. Everything on CNN is a father of 3, married, all this different things, and he's like the perfect human being on earth. And you watch Fox News. I tend to watch both of them just to get 2 different perspectives on it. Then you hear Fox News with, he was a gang member, he hung out with gang members, he beat his wife, all these different things that are going on with this guy. So I have 0 problems with him being shipped over back to El Salvador in that prison. And
what? Because Fox News told you these things? And like, this isn't a popularity contest. I can't even tell you how scary it is that neither of these people recognize that they just pulled a man off the streets and sent him to El Salvador, which, by the way, courts had said he should never have to go to again.
And then with that senator from, Maryland, I think it is, where he's originally from, looks like a complete moron going over there and expecting Venezuela to open up the prison to let him talk to him and bring him home, which is ridiculous. So I think that's kind of funny.
Hey, the prison's not in Venezuela. They were Venezuelan people. And he literally thinks that it's ridiculous for a senator to go there and advocate for someone.
But it's just interesting how you see 2 different programs spinning it the way they want to spin it. And I'm getting to the point now where it has come out that he did beat his wife with the records that were shown.
This was one of the things that turned me off on Democrats. Who's this guy, James Carver, that's like a political grandstander?
Carville. James Carville.
James Carville.
Yeah. Carville, yeah. So he's saying that this should be the Democrats' main focus. I mean, all the issues that we are going on in this country, and this should be your main focus. And it just makes me feel like it's production value.
It should be the main focus because these are our constitutional rights. And if the Trump administration chooses to do this to somebody else, they could choose to do it to you. You could be picked up off the streets because they don't like something you've done, and you can be disappeared too. This is how creepy and horrible they are. But apparently that's not resonating with you.
Reports this guy was busted. It's called a coyote, something here in Arizona, where they bring people across the border and they get paid. I mean, this guy obviously has ties to these gangs.
Obviously. But somehow they missed the obvious proof that Trump had government secrets stored in a bathroom. There's actually at least a picture for that. Or fomented an insurrection. What is even happening.
Main concern. I honestly, I don't think he should come back. Maybe they could look into it more, but this is not the main problem in America right now.
Oh, I'll agree. This shouldn't be the main problem in the United States. We should be talking about healthcare for all, Medicare for all. We should be talking about a way to balance the budget and get the rich to pay more. We should be talking about how to provide quality education to all of our residents and make it affordable for young people to go to college. We could be talking about building roads and a whole host of things, but you chose to vote for a Donald J. Trump, and now we got an SHIT storm of illegal goings-ons. In fact, we could even just talk about his corruption. That'd be something. All the money he's making just being in the White House. Good gravy, people.
Actually, he was not here legally. He had 2 orders of deportation.
He was not here illegally. People keep saying that. And in fact, I've watched some different news shows where there's panels, and some of the people on the panels will say he was here illegally. He was not. He was going into his immigration court hearings routinely. He was told he can be here, and he was not to ever have to go back to El Salvador. Stop repeating things that are not true.
That were entered by a judge, and then it was appealed and still had to leave. They had evidence that he's part of the MS-13 gang.
Where's the evidence? Could we see the evidence?
The only thing that they couldn't do was send him back to El Salvador because he was afraid of being killed by a rival gang, right? So that tells you something right there.
I just don't even know.
If he's not in a gang, why would this other gang be a rival, right? That was the only thing that they did. And then even at that, once they determined that MS-13 was the terrorist group, then even that protection of not having to go to El Salvador kind of falls by the wayside. So there's a lot going on here with this gentleman.
Yes, there's a lot going on. So could we have a trial, please? Could we have the Trump administration bring their evidence to court, file charges? And could we please have due process? Because there's a lot going on here. Now, I don't know if our elected officials get dumbed down or if they're just given talking points, but what they're doing is not helpful. And it's not even helpful to the people that we're seeing here. The other thing that I found in this that was a little unnerving, and by the way, there's lots of voter comments, and I'll also say this. Some of them were far more balanced and rational, and I won't even say balanced, but more factual. Like Donald Trump should listen to the Supreme Court, and he's not. Right? Things like that. So I'm going to put the link for it in the doobly-doo. Highly informative, a little depressing, but highly informative. I do want to play for you, though, this other part that I found a little unnerving. How Trump supporters have a hard time talking themselves out of what they might now be perceiving as a dangerous vote. Now, how they talk themselves in to what should have been an obvious dangerous vote, I still don't clearly understand. But Ann Applebaum did share some insight around this in the hopes that hopefully some of the Trump voters can be swayed. If we can get 70% of the population who recognizes Trump needs to be removed, if his popularity goes down to 30%, we can move. We can move things.
We call it whataboutism colloquially from them, but it is, that you can sort of defend the ruling party's corruption because of the real or perceived sins of the opposition. Is that something you see often in other countries to sort of justify this death spiral?
Yeah, of course, it's a tactic for justifying yourself. I mean, if you are supporting something that's clearly bad, in the case of Trump, it's corruption. How do you make yourself? Everybody wants to feel like they're a good person, so they don't want to say I'm pro-corruption. And so, in order to justify it, they say, "Well, look how bad Biden was." And so that's classic. I mean, that's in everywhere.
I think about how you deal with this all the time. There were things that Biden did including how he handled Hunter Biden, especially at the end, that I thought were really terrible and that I wouldn't have supported at all. But I also can't ever understand how somebody could sort of compare the two, because a lot of people do this, right? They're like, well, but the libs are worse. And I'm like, no, they're not. Like, just as a, I'm sorry, just as an.
For those watching this who are not familiar with who Sarah Longwell is, she's a conservative. At least she started out being before Trump was put in office. And I used to be conservative too, before people voted for Trump the first time. She wouldn't vote for Trump at all. I wouldn't either. And so for her to say, no, they're not, and wait till you hear what more she has to say, is the reality that most of us have been living in.
Objective matter. They're not. And like what we are living through right now with Trump, there is not an analogous thing that the left has done or that Biden has done. Like if you want to go cherry pick one bad thing that one Democrat said somewhere, but in terms of having a Democratic administration behave the way this administration, it's just absolutely untrue. But not only do voters believe it, but a lot of elites, because it's interesting, you talk about your friend, this is where I live in terms of the people I know, the people that I used to run around with in sort of conservative circles, where nothing that Trump does on this front makes them say like, oh yeah, you know what? Literally any Democrat, like Kamala Harris would have been just fine. She would not be doing this right now.
There's also another thing that happens, which is that once people have made a morally wrong choice, I mean, once they've chosen corruption or they've chosen authoritarianism, once they've made that decision, and for thinking people, it was often a pretty big decision. They had to absorb a lot of information and reject it or justify it or something. I find that it's pretty rare for them to change their minds.
It's a sunk cost.
It's
somehow.
A sunk cost.
Yeah.
And then they have to defend it.
Right.
And to defend it, and they will, read Bill Ackman's Twitter feed, to defend it, they will have to contort themselves in various directions. They'll have to say, this is okay because of that. They'll have to find a reason. They're just amazingly few, particularly, I mean, and the more intelligent and the better informed and better educated the Trump supporter is, it seems to me the less likely that they'll back down, because the more they've put into it and the more they're going to need to find explanations for why it's good. Actually, funny enough, I would think it's more the less informed voters for whom this matters less, for whom it was not such a big decision. They're the ones who might say, well, I don't like the fact that he's done these tariffs and screwed up the economy, and they might switch sides. But
yes.
but the better educated voters, I think they made a choice and they're going to stick with it. We'll see, but that would be my guess.
There you have it, straight from the experts. And maybe that's why a lot of the Democrats don't want to offend the low information voters that I was giving a hard time to. But I have such a hard time with it. Pay attention and think. It's not that hard. Anyway, there's hope. And this is what I'm starting to think. And I might even do a video about it. Trump's actually helping us out. I know it's a horrible thought, but it's kind of like COVID. COVID was a horrible thing, but a lot of good things came out of it. Like I had some time off and I did some canning, and it was nice to not be in FOMO and fear of missing out. Like everyone was home, so I can just sit home and do nothing or paint or whatever. So, and our planet was better cared for too. People weren't driving everywhere and flying everywhere. So our planet was better taken care of. That's nice. And I think that's what's going to come out of Trump too. Like we're going to get this new regeneration. It's going to be bigger and it's going to be better. But in the meantime, it's very important to speak truth. And it's very important for us to make sure that people understand what is really going on and what the real costs are. I recently did a little Dave Ramsey video, which was about him talking about the changes in the stock market and not really fessing up that he recommended and voted for this craziness with Donald J. Trump. Believe it or not, Dave and I actually agreed on a few things. So I think you should check it out. And I'll see you there.